It was the summer of 2016. I had just finished high school and was weeks away from my 19th birthday. I had yet to enroll into a local college and was unemployed. Living at home with the folks was starting to get old. So my girlfriend and I decided to drive 8 hours away into the desert to visit our buddy Patrick. We had nothing better to do with our time and needed a short vacation. We made it a plan. It would later turn out that the vacation would soon be a much sinister experience that would haunt my dreams to this day. Now, as young children, we have at some point heard of the boogeyman, mainly told in stories at slumber parties or around a campfire to give each other nothing more than cheap thrills. Most of us brush it off as a fairy tale, knowing that there be no such thing. Or is there? It was a Friday afternoon, and my girlfriend Kaylee and I packed a few bags and hit the road. We got off to a late start and would arrive at Patrick's apartment later than anticipated. A few hours passed, and dusk began to set in. We were in the middle of the desert, and it started to get dark. Kaylee had informed me that she needed to use the restroom, as did I. So we passed a sign that indicated a rest stop roughly a half a mile away up the road. As we passed the sign, we noticed something in the near distance. There was a man. The man, which seemed slightly elderly, appeared to be looking straight at us. "What in God's name is he doing way out here?" Kaylee exclaimed. Something was off about him. His face was expressionless. This man sent a chill up our spines. But we brushed it off, assuming he was just a lost traveler of the sort. We pulled into the rest stop. It appeared abandoned. It had a small parking lot that had weeds protruding through the asphalt, and only one light that made a rapid buzzing sound. We stepped out of my car and made our way to the restrooms, but we had the sudden feeling that we were being watched. Kaylee and I looked at each other in dread. We were practically too scared, nearly paralyzed, to use the restroom, and we didn't know why. We just were. We made our way back to the car and got in. As I put the keys in the ignition in an attempt to start it, to our shock, it wouldn't. Panic started to overwhelm us in a desperate action to try to start the car to no avail. It was dead silent. We couldn't even hear crickets or let alone any nearby sign of life. I looked up at Kaylee. She had terror upon her face as if she'd seen a ghost or something. I looked up in the direction she was looking. What I saw scared me. We saw the man, only this time he looked angry and hungry. He was about 200 feet away and started to walk towards us. Not run, walk, as if he knew that our doom was imminent. "Start the car! Hurry up! He's coming!" Kaylee screamed at me. As I continued to try to get the car to start, we could hear bones cracking. The man's mouth opened and opened, far wider than humanly possible. This was no man. This was a monster, and it wanted us. The man was nearing in, and just as he crossed into the parking lot, the car started. I hit the gas, and we got out of there as the tires screeched. As we got back onto the main road, I looked to my rear view mirror. It was sprinting towards us, and it was sprinting fast. I reached speeds of nearly 85 before it finally disappeared. We never did make it to Patrick's. Instead, we stopped off at the nearest town and rented a room for the night. Kaylee and I barely said a word to each other. We couldn't sleep either. I mean, how could we? It was just after 3 a.m. when we heard a knock on our door. We dared not answer. We were petrified. The knocking turned into banging and what sounded like growling coming from the other side of the door. Several minutes passed before the racket stopped. We stayed up until the sun came up, and we got into my car and got the hell out of there. I took Kaylee home and I went back to my parents' house. We didn't say much. We were too scared. I walked in the door and hollered for my mom and dad. I got no response, and then I went to my room and shut the door. I did some research later on my computer. I typed the exact location and highway that Kaylee and I were at, along with the rest stop, and came across a link. According to a local legend, a monster haunts the highway at night and is known only as the Wretch, and it apparently hunts down whoever disturbs it. Over the next few days, I did my best to forget about the incident until my parents came up and got me from my room and brought me downstairs. The police had showed up and notified me that Kaylee went missing, and all that was left behind of her in her bedroom was a faint trail of blood leading out her open window. My blood went cold. I knew what happened to her. She was gone. I told the police I had simply not seen her. I mean, who would believe me? Later that night, I looked out my bedroom window, and there it was. It's here now. If you ever decide to travel at night and see an old man staring at you, run.